Big Blue, stop right now. MetLife Stadium just exploded with breaking news. And one fact is already on the table. 61% of fans think our season hinges on a rookie running back's ankles. A star's reckless backflip sent shockwaves through East Rutherford. A massive trade created a gaping hole in our defense. And a former Pro Bowl receiver is already one bad practice away from getting cut. Insiders warned us last night, and here's the first payoff. That 40-10 rushing total from last year, it was put up in just 8 games before catastrophe hit. If you bleed blue, white, and red, hit like and subscribe right now to prove Eagles fans don't own the NFC East. We start with the injury concern that has the front office holding its breath. Stay locked, there's a double cliffhanger at the end. A dislocated ankle that required major surgery, a grueling rehabilitation process that stretched deep into the offseason, and a recent backflip at a WWE event during Fanatics Fest that made the entire front office stop breathing for a full minute. The question everyone in New York is asking right now: can his body actually survive his own violent running style? The name, Cam Scatabo, and his hyper-aggressive nature on the field is turning out to be a double-edged sword for the New York Giants. Let's break down the cold, hard reality of this backfield before training camp kicks off. Scatabo became an instant fan favorite during his rookie season because he ran the football as if every single defender on the opposing team had personally insulted his entire family. He lowered his pad level, lowered his shoulder, fought through brutal contact, and frequently turned routine 3-yard gains into bone-crushing collisions with safety units. There was absolutely nothing graceful about his style, and that was the exact charm that made Big Blue fall in love with him. Before his rookie season came to a tragic halt after just 8 games, the dynamic 4th-round draft pick managed to rush for 410 yards and 5 touchdowns, while adding 24 receptions for 207 yards and 2 more scores through the air. That represents 617 total yards from scrimmage on just 125 touches. He didn't just look like a solid contributor, he looked like the future centerpiece of the entire Giants offense. But here is where the problem begins. Scatabo has explicitly insisted that he has zero plans to alter his violent approach, claiming he wants to play with the exact same edge that brought him to the NFL. Then came the Fanatics Fest incident, where he attempted a backflip in a WWE ring, landed awkwardly on the mat, quickly got back up, and claimed he was perfectly fine. While the incident was harmless on the surface, watching a core player recovering from major ankle surgery take unnecessary physical risks likely caused severe panic in the executive suites. The NFL has a long history of chewing up and spitting out physical running backs. Legends like Marion Barber, Chris Carson, and Earl Campbell became beloved heroes because of their willingness to punish defenders. But their bodies eventually collected the ultimate bill. Running backs almost never win a long-term war against repeated high-speed contact. Listed at 5'9" and 220 pounds, Scatabo has the thick build to absorb punishment better than most. But no human frame is engineered to survive 17 weeks of brutal collisions every single Sunday. When you analyze the physical toll of this division, every hit against Dallas or Philadelphia carries extra weight. The NFC East is notorious for punishing physical ball carriers, and if Scatabo takes 30 hits a game, the math simply catches up to him before November hits. Furthermore, the coaching staff knows that if his backup has to step in unexpectedly, the entire passing scheme becomes predictable for opposing linebackers. With second-year quarterback Jackson Dart entering a pivotal stage of his development, New York desperately needs Scatabo healthy on the field to command stacked boxes, dominate in short yardage situations, and take the immense weight off the young quarterback's shoulders. Scatabo doesn't need to become timid or soft. He simply needs to become selective. Stepping out of bounds or avoiding a useless hit on a dead play won't ruin his game, but staying on the sideline definitely will. Do you think Scatabo needs to tone down his aggressiveness to preserve his career? Or should he keep steamrolling defenders no matter what? Drop your take in the comments right now. Hit that like button if you want to see him crushing linebackers in Week 1. But while the offense worries about keeping its star running back intact, our defense is facing a far larger crisis that could sabotage the entire 2026 campaign. A massive hole in the interior line is threatening to unravel everything. Scouts and analysts across the league called it an impossible void to fill. And replacing an all-pro interior force is the kind of nightmare no first-year defensive coordinator ever wants to deal with. The real question wasn't whether the Giants would feel the loss, but how fast opposing offenses would exploit it. The name behind this massive defensive concern? Dexter Lawrence, or more accurately, the giant empty crater left on the defensive line after his blockbuster offseason trade to the Cincinnati Bengals. New defensive coordinator Denard Wilson is taking over play-calling duties for a unit that surrendered an NFC worst 145.3 rushing yards per game last season under Shane Bowen. Now Wilson is expected to repair that broken run defense without the single most dominant nose tackle in the sport. According to sources close to the organization, and this is marked as a rumor, league insiders like Ian Rappaport note that Wilson's hyper-aggressive scheme completely relies on interior push to free up elite edge rushers like Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. Without Sexy Dexy collapsing the pocket from the inside, those high-priced edge rushers could find themselves fighting through constant chip blocks and double teams without any relief. To patch up this massive gap, the front office signed veteran free agents DJ Reader and Shelby Harris while banking heavily on a massive Year 2 breakout from Darius Alexander. They also brought in rotational pieces like Leki Fotu, Zach Pickens, and Bobby Jamison Travis to build a defensive tackle committee. On paper, the defensive tackle room might actually appear deeper and more versatile than it was a year ago. However, replacing the individual gravity, double team absorption, and raw leadership of Dexter Lawrence is a completely different story. Think about what this means for third down conversions. Last season, Lawrence commanded double teams on over 60% of his snaps, which freed up linebackers to shoot gaps cleanly. Without that single-player disruption, opponents will be able to leave single blocks inside, allowing tight ends and running backs to chip our edge rushers. If opposing offensive lines can consistently reach the second level, our young linebacker corps will be forced to tackle powerbacks in open space all afternoon. That single shift could convert 3rd and 4s into easy first downs, destroying our time of possession and gassing the entire defense by the 4th quarter. If Reader, Harris, and Alexander cannot combine to stop the run early on downs, opposing teams will easily control the clock, keep Jackson Dart off the field, and force our secondary into long, exhausting coverage snaps. Denard Wilson's entire defensive reputation in New York will sink or swim based on how this middle unit responds. Can this new veteran committee hold the line against heavy run offenses? Or was trading away Dexter Lawrence the biggest front office mistake of the decade? Let your voice be heard in the comments below. Hit subscribe right now if you trust John Harbaugh and Denard Wilson to fix this defense before September. But just as the defense scrambles to fortify its front seven, an intense positional war inside the wide receiver room is about to produce its first major roster casualty. A decorated veteran wideout sitting quietly in a crowded meeting room, watching his first team reps evaporate before pads have even been strapped on for summer practices. Reports indicate the front office evaluation file on his roster status was updated right after minicamp wrapped up, and the new coaching staff is far from impressed with what they saw on the field. The identity that every Big Blue fan is talking about right now? JUJU Smith-Schuster and the former Pro Bowler is officially standing on paper-thin ice as training camp approaches. Nearly half of the current 90-man roster was assembled during a wild off-season overhaul led by head coach John Harbaugh. While core superstars like Malik Nabers and Darius Slayton are locked in as primary targets, the receiver depth chart behind them has become an absolute pressure cooker. The front office went on an aggressive spending spree, signing JUJU Smith-Schuster, Odell Beckham Jr., Braxton Berrios, Calvin Austin III, and Darnell Mooney, while also drafting rookie Malachi Fields. Considering the Giants only carried 6 wide receivers on their initial active roster last season, there is simply no physical room for all these names to survive final cuts. Every receiver in that room needs a distinct calling card to justify a spot on the 53-man list. Braxton Berrios brings elite return game flexibility, Odell Beckham Jr. brings franchise history and clutch hands, and Mooney brings unmatchable deep speed. JUJU Smith-Schuster, however, offers very little special teams value and got off to a disastrous start during organized team activities. He was caught on camera looking noticeably slow on his route breaks and dropped a wide-open deep pass, instantly sparking speculation that his time in New York might end before the preseason even begins. The financial reality of the NFL makes this situation even more urgent. When you look at dead cap numbers versus roster flexibility, keeping a veteran who can't contribute on special teams or push defensive backs deep makes zero sense for a rebuilding squad. The coaching staff wants players who can play 3 different spots on offense or dominate in kick coverage. If a receiver can't create separation against secondary defenders in OTAs, he becomes an expensive luxury that a disciplined coach like John Harbaugh won't tolerate. While his extensive experience in Matt Nagy's offensive system was supposed to give him an early advantage, his lack of separation speed makes him extremely vulnerable to younger, faster talent. JUJU has evolved into a pure slot receiver, taking nearly half his snaps from the slot last year, but New York already has dynamic options to operate underneath. Raising the floor of the receiver room is fantastic news for quarterback Jackson Dart's development, but it signals total doom for coasting veterans. JUJU Smith-Schuster is literally one bad practice or one dropped pass away from receiving his pink slip. Do you think JUJU deserves one last chance to prove himself in training camp, or should the Giants cut him immediately to save space for younger talent? Sound off in the comments below. But as these positional battles reach a boiling point, it's time to step back and look at the massive picture unfolding in East Rutherford. 3 explosive storylines, 1 defining crossroads for the entire New York Giants franchise. Cam Skattebo's health and running mentality will dictate whether our offense has true physical balance. Denard Wilson's restructured defensive line will determine if we can finally stop getting gashed on the ground. And the cutthroat wide receiver battle proves that John Harbaugh is running a strict meritocracy with zero room for reputation. If Skattebo manages his physical load wisely, if Reeder and Harris solidify the interior, and if Jackson Dart takes full advantage of this upgraded receiving core, Big Blue won't just be competing for respectability, we will be actively threatening the entire NFC East hierarchy. The division is wide open for the taking, but every single unit must execute with military precision starting on day 1 of training camp. Here is exactly what I need from Big Blue Nation right now. 1. Smash that like button right now if you truly believe the Giants are making a serious playoff run this season. 2. Drop a comment below with your exact prediction for the starting wide receiver group, who makes the final cut and who gets sent packing. 3. Hit subscribe immediately, because every new subscriber strengthens our community and sends a direct message to Cowboys and Eagles fans that Big Blue is coming back for the crown. But listen very carefully, because the off-season drama is far from over. Word is leaking out of the facilities in East Rutherford that a major, unexpected injury update regarding a key defensive starter is set to break within the next 24 hours. On top of that, rumors are circulating that the Philadelphia Eagles are trying to hijack a trade deal for an interior defensive lineman that the Giants were secretly trying to sign. Which NFC East domino is going to fall first, and how will John Harbaugh respond? Subscribe right now, stay locked to the channel, and let's bring the absolute loudest noise to MetLife Stadium this year. We stand together. See you all in the very next update.